Hello and welcome back to my craft room. Guess what I've got? This is the March Year in Stitches Quilt Club box. I've been having a lovely time with the Quilt Club. If you're a regular viewer, you'll have seen. This is what one of the things I made with the January leftovers. I'm accumulating quite a pile of little makes from the leftovers, which is really nice. I've got quite a pile of scrappy leftovers as well, which I'm going to keep up to the end of the year and do one big scrappy project with it. So the idea with the Quilt of the Month Club is that each month we will learn a new quilting pattern or technique. We'll make one block each month, but as you'll see in a minute, lots of leftovers as well. Each block will be 18.5 inches, or I'm coming out a bit smaller because I'm working in centimetres. Towards the end of the year, we'll learn how to do the sashing and backing and binding and things to create a quilt, a unique, beautiful quilt, big enough for a double bed. They will all be unique because they'll be pulling fabrics according to the preferences that we've told them. And of course, you can choose how you combine your fabrics as well. So yeah, no two quilts are going to end up the same. I'm having a lovely time. I have never tried proper precise quilting before. I've done various types of quilting, but I've never done anything like this. And I've been so pleased. Rachel's instructions have been brilliant. And they're generous enough with the fabrics so that you can... I think Kirsty wanted to do it that way because she said she wanted there to be plenty so that if you're a beginner, like me, and you go wrong, you've got plenty to cut again. But touch wood, I've got lucky each time and I've ended up with lots of leftovers. So this was my first block. This is from January. Love the fabrics that that Rachel chose for me very much. She picked according to my taste, very much so. So this was a traditional piecing method. We did half square triangles. I've never done those before. I was very, very pleased with them, and we used them to create this chained star block. It's called the chained star. And I love it. I love the look of that. In February, we made this one. So this was snowballs and flying geese, and we were sent embroidery transfers. Everybody got different ones. I chose to use the heart that I got in mine. Heart, and it was a sprig of flowers as well. And you can use them over and over again because I could do more embroideries on other blocks that I make subsequently as well. Yeah, so you can see how those are going to go beautifully together. It's just going to be a phenomenal quilt at the end of the year. And I'm going to have all these ready-made lovely things I've made with the leftovers to kind of fill a craft stall or give us presents or whatever. So with some of January's leftovers, I made this tote bag. It's all full, but my sides don't match up very well. I didn't do very well there. Well, I was so pleased with the blocks. I've been so pleased at how precise I've been able to get. I've been really chuffed. I will link to the playlist so you can check it out. Yeah, this is fully reversible and there's a pocket inside. I also made this bookmark and this fold out fabric caddy, all very handy stuff. And then last month, the February one, this lovely fabric bowl, I was very pleased with it. Again, all completely reversible. And I covered it with hand stitching with some of the leftover embroidery threads from the kit. Just a really useful little thing to have. And here, this little hanging caddy, again very useful. You could use it as a way to give stitchy gifts. Oh, I did have one idea. It should be fun. Would be to make little ponytails or scrunchies. Fill this little caddy with them, and you could hang it up in your bedroom. I also made this cute, dinky little. I ended up with the flying geese blocks. I ended up with a lot of little triangles. So I used some of them to make this little dinky pincushion, or you could just use it as a bag charm. And this coaster, I learnt to do the binding with this. So yeah, that was interesting. And started to make this coaster. But I got a bit bogged down with this one. But looking at it again now, I like it much better than I did when I made it. So I need to back it and bind it and turn it into another coaster, mug rug, whatever. So very happy with those. I can't believe how much you get. I can't believe how well I'm doing, to be honest, because as I say, it's all new to me. The idea of this is that you can learn along with me. The boxes are only £25. It's only £25 a month. You get so much in there. If you were watching this and it's now July or something, it's not too late. You can still join in. If you joined now and it was say it was July, they would send you, your first box would be whatever the current box is, but you can go back and buy the previous boxes as individual boxes. Any doubt about that at all, just talk to them, just email them. There's contact details on their website. They're really helpful and friendly. The £25 includes postage within the UK as well. You know, obviously it's more, they will send abroad, but it will cost more for postage. But again, you can always ask them how much that would be. So I'm going to put those away carefully now, and I want to get in and see what's in store for me this month. For some reason, it was a little bit heavy, this one. I don't know why it would be. Rip strip. I'll take you to the desk and you can find out as I find out. Okay. So always beautifully packed with their lovely tissue paper. There's a card here from Rachel. Let's see. What was she saying? Happy birthday. Aww. We hope you have a lovely trip away. Aww. Oh, this month the block is based on foundation paper piecing. Now that is something I've been wanting to try for ages. Our Sylvia, who is on YouTube, she's You and Me FPP. The FPP stands for foundation paper piecing. And Sylvia did for me, bless her, she did for me a template to do an FPP version of my little logo, the nose and glasses logo. And I put the material aside ready and everything, and I've been meaning to get around to it for ages, and I just haven't. And she keeps asking, maybe this will be the month I'll do it then. We've left this open for a lot of creativity. Ooh, how intriguing. Goosebumps are out. Right, let's go in. Oh, that's why this is heavier. Okay, top secret. I can't open this in front of you now. So this, Pick and Mix project number 1, top secret. So this, let me just say about this. This is part of, this is to do with our big event in September. Another exciting thing going on. You may have heard me talk about it before, but if you're new, you won't. So this is the Arty Farty Crafty Day at Stitch Kit HQ. It's going to be on Friday the 25th of September this year, 2026. They're based in Worcester, here in the UK, and they have a lovely big kind of community area. And this all came about because we were talking about different places that we could maybe get together. Some of our community could get together. And Kirsty and Rachel suggested that they've got a place that we would be welcome to use. Then we put together this idea of having like a more structured craft day. So there are only 40 in-person places available, but you can choose to join in from home if you prefer. The ticket price includes your whole kit. The main activity is going to be Manx quilting, another kind of quilting which is very beginner friendly, all done by hand, just running stitch, barely any measuring. You traditionally it's just measured against the dimensions of your own hand, and it's like snip and rip. Very, very forgiving, quite quick to do, satisfying, beautiful to look at, and the idea is that we're going to be making 4 of those quilt blocks and then turning them into a cushion cover. Everything will be there in the kit to make your cushion cover. I'll link to the bit on the website where what I'll do is link to their events section, and then you just have to click on the box that either says in person or at home or words to that effect. it's a really good price. It's going to be a fabulous day. It includes your lunch and everything. I'm very excited about it. Tom is coming with me to do all the techie stuff. We'll be doing live streams throughout the day, and we've started a virtual craft club in our Discord community just recently, so people will be able to gather in there if they want as well, if they're working from home, and that'll help everybody to feel a bit more kind of as if they're there with us. There'll be a whole series of step-by-step video tutorials will be going out throughout the course of the day that we'll do as live premieres, so we can chat. There'll be live chat going on. It's just going to be fantastic. And then the next day, so for those of us like Tom and myself who will be staying overnight, we'll actually have to stay the night before to start getting set up and to be there early enough in the morning. Then we'll stay over the next day as well. And Kirsty's going to do a free tour of the city. Worcester's a beautiful historical city. I've never been there, but apparently there's lots to see and do, lots of history there. So she's going to organise a free tour of the city. She's going to help out with transport and everything. They've been brilliant. It's at 10 till 12, I think. And then 2 till 4, there's going to be an optional, and again, all free of charge, craft and natter session back at Stitch Kit HQ. And you could take along whatever you wanted to be doing. You could carry on working on your Manx quilt stuff, because I doubt people are going to finish their whole cushion cover on the day. Some people are very fast though, aren't they? And I think it's going to be a good project and a good type of technique to allow for people of all different skill levels. There will be people who work faster, who've done it before, and there will be complete beginners. I'm always a very slow worker at things, and I just think, each person enjoys it differently and each person learns differently. So that brings me back to there's an optional extra where you can get this extra pick and mix craft box. It's going to have 4 different crafts in it. I need to do video kind of tutorials for each of the crafts as well. And so this is project number 1. And I have seen already the ideas that Rachel was putting together for the 4 different crafts. They will be exclusive to that box. You won't be able to get them any other way. So yeah, I can't wait. So that's why she said that she'd put it in, but she'd make sure it was labelled and didn't show, because she knows I open these boxes on camera. So that explains why the box is so heavy. Oh, lovely colours. Let's have a look. Let's go back to the desk. I'm a bit overexcited now. If you've got any questions about all that stuff I just garbled about, you just ask them in the comments, or you can ask Rachel and Kirsty. Catch me in Discord. Ask me when we're on a live stream. So, you know how to find me. Okay, so bearing in mind the colours that you've already seen, obviously Rachel is making sure that each month she sends fabric. They're different fabrics, but they will coordinate with what's gone before, and some of them will be the same as what's gone before. So I recognise this orange fabric. I think, yes, I had some of that in the January block. Love this pink, beautiful. And it's nice that, with all of the colours in this lovely print, these are all Lewis and Irene prints. There's lots of colours in there, so I guess Rachel can pull out any of those really and they'll go, won't they? So let's see. I think I'm going to get this box out of the way now because it's noisy with the tissue and everything. Oh, that's fun. Gutermann's thread. Lovely 100% cotton one. And this gorgeous kind of honey colour really, isn't it? Yeah. I love that noise. Okay, those seem nice. We've got this, which tones in beautifully with that print. Have we got a selvage where it tells us what this is? This is one of those Andover fabrics. Pattern 1655. There's no wording on there to tell me any more about it. Very nice quality fabrics there. The supplies they send are always all of the. So I've had like a year's worth of Craft of the Month kits, and now this is my 3rd of these Quilt of the Month kits. The Year in Stitches Club. All of the supplies have just always been such beautiful quality, whether it's been yarn or fabric or whatever, Another Andover Fabrics. So it looks like I meant to check how much that was. Is that a fat quarter? Yeah, that's a fat quarter. This looks like another fat quarter. Again, goes nicely with what I've already got there. I'm dying to see it. It's going to be so exciting when we go in September to actually have a look around the shop. Oh, and there's extras. There's if you're there on the day, there's a 10% discount if you go to the shop. If and if you're from home, you'll get a voucher that you can use in the online shop. And there's going to be in each box. There's going to be a draw, a lucky ticket for a draw that we'll do at the end of the day. And this looks like this is a half metre of this orange, which is another Andover Fabrics, one of those kind of what I think of as blender fabrics. This one's called Freckles. And then we've got this one, which kind of almost looks like a chambray, but it's lighter. Interesting. Got that lovely kind of... It's not showing it that well on camera. It's a much nicer blue. It looks almost grey there on camera. It's actually a really pretty blue. I quite often find that these kind of what I think of as kind of warmer blues don't seem to show very well on camera. You can see it's doing a funny thing, a funny moire thing there, and I'm not quite sure why, because it doesn't, in real life it doesn't at all. It's a really nice blue with a little bit pattern that gives it a little bit of texture. But the colour looks lifeless there, and it's actually a really nice colour. Okay, and then we've got quite a large piece of this plain, again, lovely quality feeling. Just a soft white. It's a soft white, isn't it? I mean, that's white paper. It's not quite as white as that, but it's not a cream. Yep, again, I would say that's a half metre. So we've got half metre of that, half metre of that one, and half metre of this one. It's quite a lot, isn't it? Yeah, that is a half metre. And these two fat quarters. Okay, so let's have a look. Let's get that out of the way. Let's have a look at foundation paper piecing. Let's have a look at instructions. Big fat instructions. That's a bit scary. So yeah, last month I didn't mention. I just said it was flying geese and snowballs. But those were both using the stitch and flip method, where you stitch, trim, flip back. The first month was using the traditional piecing, I think it was called, making half square triangles. So this month uses the foundation paper piecing technique. When using foundation paper piecing, you sew directly onto the paper instead of joining the pieces together in the traditional way. This method is extremely accurate, making it easy to sew sharp angles and perfect points on the skirt. You don't have to cut your pieces to the exact shape and size to start off with, as you will trim them during the process. So 36 blocks, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 by 6, 36, 3 to 5 colours. When using your foundation paper piecing method, it helps to shorten your stitch size. This will make it easier to remove the paper. Yes, I can see that. Yeah. Iron your foundation paper piece squares with the paper still attached. This will help to stop your fabric stretching on the bias. Couple of really handy top tips there. Now, is it so fat? Because yes, it includes all of these templates. Oh. So yeah, this is kind of like what Sylvia sent me, the one that she created for me. Here it is. Tiny little, very precise pieces. But yeah, so, and I picked out all the fabrics to do it with, and then that's as far as this will get me going, Sylvia, I promise. This might be an easier in. The following page is a size to use as templates to sew your units. Please feel free to photocopy if you need more, but we've provided enough for slightly more than the 36 units required to make up the block. So it might be as well to just photocopy one or scan a page so I can print off more if I need to. I think I'll do that anyway, because, you know, chances are I'll want to do it again. Oh, look at this. So this is where Rachel is saying you've got some scope for creativity here, because you can arrange these same blocks in all different kinds of patterns, and by using different colours and different arrangements, you're going to get lots and lots of different effects. How exciting. Let's have a look at this one again. Yeah, I do quite like that one. So I can choose which fabric I want to really stand out, which colour I want to really pop. They always letter the fabrics in the instructions because, of course, everybody's getting different fabrics. So they can't say the blue fabric or the pink fabric because you might not have that. So these are the 5 different ones: A, B, C, D and E. A, B and C are all ½ meters. D and E are flat quarters. Iron your fabric before cutting to get an accurate cut. Yes, have a good tip. Best not to use steam as it can soften the fabric. Design your block before cutting any fabric. Wise words. One of the great things about foundation paper piecing is that a very simple unit can be used to create many different designs. These are a few examples of the blocks you can create this month, all from the one unit. So the unit being this, and different coloured fabric. This month we've given you a blank sheet with all 36 units on it. You can cut this up and colour it using the colours of your fabrics to create any pattern you wish. You'll need to do this before you sew your blocks. Okay, so I need to do some designing first. You can then use the templates you create to show you which fabric you need to sew onto each block. The best way to do this would be to stick your design to the back of the sheet and mark off each square as you sew it. I rather like this effect. Okay, so now they've given us some different examples. I quite like how that one, because of the way the colours are arranged, instead of it being all white around the outside of that diamond and green around the inside, in this one they've been turned so that you've got these two are white, these two are green, and this gives it a bit more of an effect of dimension, doesn't it, rather than that it's more like a flat pattern. So that is interesting. So the examples below use 3 colours taken from fabrics A, B and C, which are all ½ meters. Don't use colours D and E, so these fat quarter ones. Don't use them for a 3-colour block, as you may not have enough fabric. So this is a 3-colour block. Right. This is a 5-colour design. All the units are different. You need to plan very carefully to ensure each block is made up with the correct colours and is sewn together. Oh, I'm gonna have to keep track. Apparently Kirsty got on really well with this one, so that's encouraging. It's quite a challenge, but I love a challenge. I love to learn something new, and this is appealing to my creativity and my slightly odd. I have a thing about I like ticking things off and organising things, and the kind of planning and precision of this kind of does appeal to me. So basically the first thing I need to do is design. It's do my design, and then these instructions are about how the actual technique of how you do this foundation paper piecing, where you stitch onto the paper, press it and then take the paper off. Okay, so I'll read that when I'm ready for that stage. I think they're saying is to cut up and colour this template to plan your quilt block. Photocopy it if you want to make lots of different designs. We can email you another copy if you need one. Oh, bless, that's really kind of them. We've got another spare copy there, so I could try some different ideas. Oh, I'm so excited for this. I could maybe do something like this, but turn these little blocks to get that more kind of dimensional effect, like I was saying about just now, but with the different colours inside. Oh, decisions. So the first thing I'm going to do, I've decided that my design is going to be, I'm going to go with my gut instinct and do it like this one, where you've got that kind of 3-dimensional effect. By the way, they've arranged the lighter and darker colours here, but with the different colour centres. So I'll be using all 5 colours. First thing I need to do is take one of these sheets and cut it up into the individual squares. So I can add the colours and then arrange them as I want. And I'm going to Rachel's tip of sticking these on the back of one of the sheets and ticking them off as I go. I like using these long paper scissors. I think they're meant for cutting wallpaper or something, these. When you're cutting long lengths of paper and you want to get a nice straight line, they're really useful. We used to use them a lot when I was scrapbooking. Right, so I've cut them all out, laid them out. I'm not sticking them down yet because I'm not changing my mind about how they're going to go. And I'm just going to start colouring in. So I've picked out 4 colours. Obviously I'm going to use all 5 colours, but one of them is white. So I've got the lighter blue to represent that kind of denim-y colour one. I've got an orange, I've got the pink, and I've got a darker blue to represent this print. Where this shows blue, I'll use the dark blue, and where this shows lime green, I'll use that lighter blue. Okay, that's my plan, Really, I mean, the colours, the prints are all lovely. Whatever order they end up going in, it'll be fine. So, okay, just a bit of colouring in now. Lovely. It doesn't need to be perfect colouring in. It's only enough to give me an indication. Okay, you don't need to sit and watch me colouring in. I'm going to sit and work my way through this. And then when I'm happy, I'll stick them on the back of the sheet. Here we go. I've finished filling it all in with colour. Made sure I like the arrangement. Looking at it through the camera now, looking on the screen. That helps me to see it with kind of fresh eyes, as it were. So now I'm going to just use my glue stick to stick these on the back of here and keep them safe. And then I'll put a little bit of space between them so that I've got room to tick them off as I make them. Because I'll be making them up on these full-size blocks. And then I'll make them row by row. As I make the row, I'll clip them together so that I don't lose the plot halfway through. So yeah, I'm just going to stick this onto here now. I think that'll look quite good. I like that I've used a little bit of all the colours. So. Right, so if I just stick them like this, just with what I need to, when I clip them together, as I do them, I'm going to have to make sure I get them in the right orientation. You do have to be really careful. I quite like this, I quite like something that you've got to be this careful about. Right, I have drawn up my design. I've stuck my squares on, left them a little bit spread out. I've taken it a step further and decided to number the squares in case I do get lost. I can number each of my full-size squares as well, and then it won't, if I do clip them together wrong or lose myself, I should be able to find myself again. So yeah, I've still got a spare one of these that I can use again. These are all the full-size ones that I'm going to use for my actual quilt. So I can put these out the way for a minute. I've had another read of all of this. I've got my fabrics ready. I've got my cutting mat and my ruler, and this is partly why I'm working in decimal, although I'm used to working in decimal anyway, but my quilting ruler is decimal, centimetres. Not decimal, I don't mean decimal, I mean it's centimetres, not imperial measurements. I'm thinking with the leftovers this time I'm going to try a more complicated pattern as well. This would be a really good way to get myself used to the method, and I'd quite like to try one that's kind of I've found a very simple heart-shaped one, and I have got that really much more challenging one that Sylvia made for me, but I think I'll do this first, then with the leftovers I'll try the heart, and then I will finally get around to doing the one that Sylvia sent me that I showed you earlier. So what Rachel is saying is to make the unit start at the right hand side and the top, the shape labelled A1. Well, obviously my blocks aren't all laid out that way, so I'm going to look at this block that way round so I can follow the instruction. And for that dark colour, I'm using this one. 6mm seam allowance is allowed. I had to kind of add up the numbers to check that, but yeah, from what I can work out, the 6mm seam allowance that you need to join these squares together at the end is included. We'll end up trimming the blocks to these outer lines. What I think I'm going to do is cut or even tear strips off of these fabrics, big enough to cover the strips here. All the blue ones I'm going to use are all going to be these small corners actually. But the strip needs to be wide enough to cover the shape and allow a seam allowance. I'm going to go along the shorter edge, I think, to start with. I just need this to be, that might even be a little bit too long, but I'd rather make it too long than too short. Now where's that lovely little snippy tool that they sent? I've lost it. Right here under my nose. Okay. I think this will snip and rip. I don't think I need to cut it. I've got this dinky little thing. I got this for doing sleeves, tubes, things like that, where there's a tubular shape, so it's difficult to iron on the flat. So I got this. It's pretty brilliant, like £6.50 from Amazon. Really good. I saw a couple of bad reviews with people saying, I had no idea this was going to be so tiny. I thought this was a full size ironing board. What, for £6.50? Seriously. It's called a sleeve board. That's a bit of a giveaway. Anyway, I'm going to try using this just for these, because they're all quite small pieces, rather than having to have my whole ironing mat thing out that I usually have. So let's give it a go. I was really pleased. It seems reasonably sturdy, and I love that it folds flat. It just tucks in the shelf with my craft iron. I think it's brilliant for the money. It annoys me when people give a bad review because something wasn't what they expected because they didn't read the description. Because it quite clearly showed the scale in the description and actually said the measurements. So, I mean, it shouldn't have been a surprise to anyone. All the measurements, this way, and this way, were all clearly stated. So not what I intended it for, but it's handy if you're ironing something that's tube shaped and you try ironing it flat. It's either really, really awkward, or you end up with a crease because you've got to press it flat. So, and then when I come to do any more garment making, this will be even more useful. Things like sleeves and collars and stuff like that. And like, you know, I can press on it. Yes, it gives a little bit when I press on it, but it seems pretty sturdy. And for £6.50, this is number 1. That corresponds to number 1 there. I'm going to kind of flip this in my head. So I'm going to start with the dark one here. And I'm going to put my fabric on the other side, and this will be the line I'll stitch along. So I need to turn over here and put this first piece of fabric goes right side up. And I'm just going to hold it up to the window. You could do it with a light box if you had a light box, but if you just hold it up to a light source, to your light bulb, or I'm just holding it up to the window, I can see that if I draw where, hang on. So I don't know if you'll be able to see, but I can see here that the line, here's where the lines are. I wouldn't normally need to draw those lines, I could just hold it up to the light source and see that. So I'm just putting this first one over here so that it's going to overlap this shape that I'm covering by 1/4 inch or 6mm all around. And instead of pinning it, I'm going to use just a tiny dab of this put stick. Doesn't need to be a lot, just to hold it there for a minute. The next fabric that I need, this is this fabric. The next one is going to be the white fabric, or the slightly off-white, slightly soft white fabric. And that's going to be big enough to cover this piece and leave a 1/4 inch seam all around. And I think I'm just going to tear a strip along this selvage, because I know that's straight. I just haven't got a lot of room here for trimming properly. It's really frustrating. There may be real quilters everywhere wincing at me tearing, but I can't see why that's a problem. So let's just make sure I get this big enough. I think if I had a nice big work table with a cutting mat on it and stuff, it would be easier to use my cutting wheel, but I haven't. So right, let's give this a little press. Cut my next strip of fabric, so it's got to cover that width, and it's got to be big enough to do a 1/4 inch seam all around, so I'm going to cut it there. I just have a feeling I may be cutting these a little bit too big, but I'm going to err on the side of caution for a minute. So now I'm going to fold the paper back along this line between A1 and A2. Okay. I want a 6mm or 1/4 inch seam. And then I'm going to line these up together, right sides together. Doesn't matter too much with this one. It's not an obvious. There is the right side of it, although it's plain, the right side of it is slightly smoother feeling actually. So let's fold this back out. And then just double check there's plenty there to cover the shape. Yes, there is. And now I'm going to stitch exactly along this line here. Okay, wish me luck, I'm going in. And I'm going to put my stitch length quite small, like 1.5. Normally I use about a 2 for a small stitch or 3 for a bigger stitch, so I'm going to go about 1.5. Okay, I've done that one. You can see what a tiny stitch I've used. And you can see that my fabric has gone a little bit crooked. That's not going to be a problem for me, and I think with the patterns I'll be using, it's not like I need to keep it particularly straight. But it might have mattered more with that one, I suppose. These are all going to be the starting ones, so that'd be okay. But you can see there's still plenty that when it folds back, it's easily going over that line. So that's good. I did a back tack at the start and end of the line of stitching, and I can see that with that tiny stitch, it's going to make it a lot easier to tear that paper away. Once sewn, flip the piece of fabric covering A2 over so that it's right side up and press this in place. Check how your shape fits, and if your fabric has too much seam allowance, more than 1/4 inch over the line between A2 and A3, trim this before continuing. And repeat this process for shape A3 and A4. Okay, it's going to be quite a lot. So this is A2, this is A3, this is A4. There's going to be quite a lot of extra there, but surely I can trim that off after I've added in piece A3, rather than have to stop, trim it off now and then trim again. Trim this now. I'm going to do, once I've done one of these, I'll do another one with you when I've hopefully kind of got the measure of it a little bit more. I feel a bit chaotic at the moment. Oh, slipped. Not a good thing. Whoops, it's not a thing you want to hear when you're quilting or doing anything else accurate. Okay. So I'm going to fold along the line between A2 and A3 now. And I think it's going to be easier to see the line if I fold it back that way first, so I can see it's on the line. And then it's easier to like reverse the fold. So then I can see that's where I would trim it to. I guess I could, let's do that. Let's trim it now. And yeah, I should be trimming this to 6mm or 1/4 inch. But because I've got a centimetre ruler, I don't have 6mm, I have a 5mm mark. So, okay. So now open it out again, and I want whatever fabric I need for A3, which is going to be this one, which for me is that lighter blue. This one. I think the rip and strip thing, snip and rip thing is working for me, so I'm going to stick with that. I'm just snipping just inside the selvage, rip that off. I mean, these are always going to be the same size strips, aren't they, really, that I need. So, I mean, 2 inches would be more than big enough. It's about 1 3/4 inches. Or just shy, or about 4.5 centimetres. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm sure you could just cut smaller pieces ready, but I just feel like for this particular pattern, they're all strips. So it just seems more economical to me to just cut long strips. That's the area I'm covering this time. So I need it to be 1/4 inch bigger either side, or 6 centimetres, 1/4 inch longer this way. So about there. I'm going to place it there. Check that when I flip it back it will cover the space. Actually it's only just, have I cut that a bit too narrow? I think for future ones I might make it 5cm strips just to be on the safe side. As always they've put way more than enough fabric in, so if I need to redo a square that will be fine. They've put more paper squares in than I need as well. If I do it like that I hopefully won't even need to stop and take the pins out as I go. Right, it's interesting when you look at some of the really complicated patterns that you get with FPP, but they're all done with, they're all straight lines, and I can very much see the attraction of this. So my next one, I'm still doing block number 1, and I'm looking at it this way round. So my next piece is going to be orange. And I think, seeing as I've got plenty of fabric to play with, let's make it 5cm strips because that's easy. Sorry if the snip and rip thing is offending proper quilters. It's just apart from anything else, it's my lack of space here. And this is good quality fabric. I know if I rip it, it'll rip along in a straight line, so. Right, okay, I'm going for a 5cm strip to generously cover that area. Little snippet, 5cm. I'll get into a rhythm with this once I've done a few, and there are quite a few to do, so I'm sure I will be feeling quite comfortable with it by the time I've done this project. And the only thing with my snip and rip is it does curl the edges a bit, and it does leave these annoying ends, but I still think it's easier trying to make space, trying to use my proper cutter to cut these long strips in this tiny space that I've got here. So that's my strip all nice and pressed now, and this is the last piece going in. So I want to cover that tiny square there, triangle there. There's plenty to cover it that way, and I need to make sure I've got at least 1/4 inch or 6mm either side. So I'm going to do the same as I did before. I want to fold between these last two shapes. So I'm going to fold that way first of all, I can see the line, but I want it folded back that way. Once you've made the fold, it's easy to reverse it back. Now if I flip this piece over, there's not too much excess there, so I'm just gonna leave that. Flip the paper out again, turn this over, pop this on so they're right sides together. Holding that up against the light, I can see that I'm covering the shape. I was just about to do it wrong side together. Let's try that again. There we go. Pop a pin in. I think one will do for that little short length. And I'm going to stitch along this line. This is the last line. I think all of this following the lines on the paper is going to be really good for my sewing machine skills, because I don't do a lot of machining. I used to years ago, I haven't for a long time. Okay, so if I flip that back now, you can see there's not a lot of excess there, but I may as well trim that down to the same seam allowance as all the others, which should be my 1/4 inch or 6mm. And that is that block finished. So now I have to trim it to the seam allowance, which is the line around the outer edge. It's looking pretty sharp, isn't it? One on its own will look pretty sharp. It's a question of whether I get all the others. I can see how this method of stitching along the lines, you're going to get absolute accuracy. And I'm really quite excited once I've practiced with this block to have a go at some more complex designs. So that's good. So here we go. This is my piece number 1, corresponding to that piece. And I'm going to write number 1 on there. 1. And I'm going to tick it off here. just tick it off there. Actually, I took it through there. Now I'm going to do number 2. So very similar, except the white and pale blue are swapped. So it's still going to be a dark blue corner to start with, then a light blue, then a white, and finishing with an orange again. So let's see if we can get it a bit smoother this time. Also, shall I take one of these off? Shall I take the paper off one of these to see how easy it is? I'm either going to love doing this or hate it. Oh, love it. Oh, it's a nice feeling. Or I might save a whole pile of them to do while I'm watching Fear the Walking Dead later. Oh yeah, that's quite satisfying. I was a bit worried it might be something I'd hate, but no. Love doing that. I can see how using that smaller stitch length makes it easier. The paper just perforates more easily. And that is a very nice, accurate block, isn't it? Okay, that's block number 1 done. Let's do this one. I'll do one more with you because I might be a bit smoother this time. And then I'll carry on and finish the rest off camera and come back to put them together. I'm going to need another one of these. Plenty wide enough. I think now that I'm going to make these strips 5 centimetres, and that's a little bit wider than it needs to be. So in future I will be cutting or tearing 5 centimetre, or what's the equivalent in inches? 2 inches strips. So that's more than enough to cover it that way, and I need to cut this piece long enough so that it's 1/4 inch or 6 millimetres either side of my triangle. There we go. And that will place over there, and I will just, oh no, on the other side though, the other side, facing towards me, and I will just hold this up to the light to make sure that the fabric, I can see that the fabric covers all of this shape, and it does. So once I'm happy with that, I'm just going to put, for just this first piece, don't need it for all the other pieces, but just this first piece, a little dab of glue to help me hold that in place. And now move on to the next colour, which this time is the pale blue. Take my 5 centimetre or 2 inch strip. I did tear this one a little bit small, but it was okay, it worked out, just had to be a bit more careful. Let's fold this back along the line. That way first, because it's easier to see that you're folding if the line's on the outside, obviously. And then just reverse the fold so it goes back that way. And now I can trim that seam allowance to 1/4 inch or 6 millimetres, like that. And now I can use that as the guide for where to place this. So I know that this piece is big enough to cover this section with a 1/4 inch or 6 millimetre seam allowance all around. Flip it over, line these edges up. Make sure that when I flip this back, it's going to cover, yes. And let's put a pin in. I think just one pin will do. And now I'm going to stitch along this line. Back tacked at the start and finish of the stitching. And now I can flip this over and finger press it, make sure it has covered. It's only just because I did cut this pale blue a little bit scanty, and I've gone slightly crooked here, you can see, but it's just about covered it, so that's okay. That's okay. Don't panic, Mr. Mannering. Okay, so now I'm gonna. But it might help actually. It might help in my explaining it. So this is A1, A2, A3, A4 in the diagram, it might help to in explaining it. So now I'm going to be looking at the line between A2 and A3 because I'm going to be adding piece A3, which in this case is going to be the white. So first thing I'm going to do is fold the paper along that printed line between A2 and A3. Really I wanted it to fold back the other way, but it's hard to do that. I like to do it where I can see the line, so I'm just reversing that fold now. The paper naturally wants to fold where I want it to. And now when I press this back, I can see this is where I'd cut off any excess seam allowance, but you can see my seam allowance is quite tight anyway, so that's fine. We'll leave that as is, and that will be my guide for lining up the next piece, which is the white. I've cut this much wider at a little bit wider than it needs to be. I think 5 centimetres or 2 inches is about right without wasting anything. And again, I'm just going to, I'm looking at covering this piece, so I need to make sure that this piece of fabric is wide enough that way, yes it is, and that it's long enough this way, there. Okay, and now I'll line these up together. Put a couple of pins. I suspect I'm going to get lazy about the pins as time goes on, because I am inherently lazy. There we go. And now I'm going to stitch this line. And again, I'll be back tacking at the start and finish and staying as accurate as I can to that line. Flip it back, finger press, give it a proper press. Now if I flip this paper back again, this is where I could trim off the extra seam allowance if I wanted to, but you can see I don't need to. Okay, last piece going in, and this is going to be the orange again. This time I want it to cover this last section. I just thought, I could have sworn I just wrote A1, A2, A3, A4 on here. Where's it gone? It was heat erasable pen I used, wasn't it? I've just ironed it. So this is A4. Oh dear. Big enough that way. Make sure it covers that way with a seam allowance. So I'm going to cut. And you can see that piece, I can hold it up to my light source just to check it's plenty big enough to cover that piece. So again, I'm going to fold this paper along the line, and I'm doing that kind of right way up to start with so that I can see where I'm folding, but really I wanted it to fold back this way, so I just reverse the fold. And now I can, whoops, I can trim the seam allowance here. And then I can flip my paper over, use this. I now know that that's already cut to the right seam allowance, and I can just line up these edges here, flip it over, put a pin in and stitch along that line. I'm getting into a rhythm now. Okay, last finger press, press, There we go. And then the immensely satisfying tearing off of the paper. How satisfying is that accuracy? I think I'm going to stack them together, and also number 1, number 2 on top of each other like that. I'm going to put them facing over here, and then number 3. I think it may be time to change the blade in my cutter. They don't last very long, do they? Warts, paper, scrap. Big pile of scrap on the floor, but it's okay because I gather it all up in a bit and put it in the bag where I've got the other pieces from previous 2 months. I love the way we're learning a completely different technique every month. It's fascinating to me, having never done any kind of proper traditional quilting before, really. You know, I've done some patchwork, I've done Kawandi, Bajagi, Manx. I've not done what I think of as the traditional quilting methods, or tried to be hugely precise before, so there we go, that's that piece. I might just give it another little press. That way, that's how they'll go. I think it's going to be really striking, isn't it? I love that look at the three-dimensional look that gives. Brilliant. Okay, 1, 2, 3. So what I'm going to do now is work through the other 33 squares and then I'll be back. Well, I have finally done all of my squares. I've got a very satisfying little stack of squares here. I must apologise now for any noise you hear in the background. My neighbours have been power washing for 2 hours. We've only got small gardens, I don't know what they're doing. I gave up waiting for it to finish. I thought I better get filming, so oh, sorry if you can hear all that in the background. As well as the usual dogs barking from the other neighbours and the planes taking off in the nearby airport. I also find noises weirdly distracting, so it may make me a little bit hesitant speaking. So yeah, apologies in advance. Anyway, so this is by far the longest time any of the quilt blocks have taken me so far. I've done this in about 3 sessions, and I think altogether, I didn't actually keep track of how long I was spending, but altogether I think it would be a solid day's work for me at my pace to do this. However, having done this over and over and over again now, I've definitely got the measure of this method, and you can see how beautifully accurate and neat they are. I'll put all the pieces together in a minute and just lay them out according to my pattern that I created, which luckily as I was going along I realised I'd made a mistake on these two, so I corrected that as I went along. I've got quite a lot of pieces like this left, and I think I'm going to try, I've forgotten what the method is called, but it's a way of using these tiny pieces to make little kind of crazy quilts, where you put them together you start off putting them together in 2s, and then you join the 2s into bigger 2s and so on. So I'm going to try a little bit of that. That will be something I'll do, maybe bring in some of my other leftovers. I've also got these strips which I will put in with my other leftovers because they might come into a kind of a scrappy string quilt at the end. And I've got these left. Some of the strips that I was using to do these, and some larger pieces still left. You can see I've got quite a bit left to play with. The largest piece of all is this one. I've got a bit of an idea for that, but one thing I definitely want to do, and I can use these strips for it because they're plenty wide enough, is I would like to try, now I've done this now I've made 36 of these, I'd like to try something a bit more of a complicated design, which I think would make more. Yeah, I'd like to do something a little bit more complicated to kind of make the most of this technique, because I think one of the things about this foundation paper piecing method is that you can do really quite complex designs and with precision if you're really, really careful. So now I've done all this practicing, I'd like to try something a bit more complicated. I did find a lovely freebie, which I think would be a kind of a transition, a good transition to more complicated ones. And this is by a lady called Amy Smart. I found a blog post where she showed a tutorial. Sorry, it's the noise. And she's also got a YouTube channel. I'll link to all of that in the description box. She does do patterns that you can buy, FPP patterns that you can buy. She also did this one as a freebie. So I've downloaded this and I will print it off a few more times, because I think I can make a whole little row of hearts that I can then turn into something useful, and I've got a feeling I know what I'm going to turn them into. But that'll be for a later video. I just thought I'd explain what my plans there are. So now I'm going to get this out of the way. Yeah, I'll come back and definitely do something with this kind of crumb quilting thing. And also I've got that fun template that Sylvia sent me. I've got the fabrics already picked out for that. I'll link to Sylvia as well, who's also got a YouTube channel, and you can find her in our Discord community too. You can send her an image and she'll turn it into a foundation paper piecing template for you. So yeah, right, let's put these to one side carefully, and bringing back in my template with the boo-boo. I'm going to lay these out now. I've got them clipped together in bundles, with the leftmost one will be on the top each time. I just need to make sure now that I get these in the right order, and I think I'll do probably one row at a time. I'll tear out the papers and pin them together. At the moment I've only taken the papers out of those first two that I did earlier in the video, these first two here. So let's pile these up and make sure that they look right. So I'll stitch all of these individual ones into rows first, work my way down, and then I'll start stitching the rows together using the nesting method that we learned in that first month in January. So now these will all get stitched together with a 1/4 inch or 6mm seam. You should end up with an 18.5 inch, or I think that's about 46 centimetres. And then once all of the blocks are stitched together into our quilt at the end, each of the blocks will measure 18 inches. Or 45 centimetres. That you can see there isn't room for me to go any further on my desk, so I'm going to leave those for now, but you can get the gist of it. I think that's going to look so striking. I'm really pleased. It's nice that we've been able to, because there are so many other ways I could have arranged these. I've actually got plenty. I could even make another block if I wanted to. But yeah, I'm keen to experiment with some more complicated patterns. So I'm going to stitch these two together first. Then I'll take the paper out of this one and add this one on, checking against my chart each time, and stitch the whole of that row together. Work my way around till I've got 6 rows, all 6 rows, and then I'll start joining the rows together using the nesting technique. I've stitched them all together into rows. I had to unpick a couple and do them again because they didn't come out quite accurate, and some of them still aren't quite, but I think I just want to get it done now. I think it'll be good enough. So now I've got them in rows, I will start stitching the rows together. So I've pressed all of these ones to the right, all of these ones to the left. So when I put them together, I can use that nesting technique we learned, where you slide them across and then you feel them kind of almost lock into place, which helps you to make sure you're getting a really accurate fit. I don't know how well this is going to come out, and after all this time this has taken me, I really hope it's going to be satisfying. So yeah, I'll go through now, stitch them together row by row, give it another press, and then I'll be back to show you how it's looking. Well, here we go. they're all stitched together. It's not come out anything like as precise as I would like. I'd like them all to look like kind of these. But there's this one, and but end of the day, I think that's good enough for me, and I love the overall effect. I think that's the overall kind of the impact of it is stunning. I love that. I love that pattern. So yeah, I'm going to leave it at that and call it done. I could have unpicked and tried again to be a bit more accurate. I think that the odd little bits like that, in the finished thing, I'm not even gonna notice those. Oh. So that's it for my main quilt block for this month, for March. But I've got the leftovers I showed earlier on. I've got lots and lots of them. I'm going to start on this now. In fact, probably before I put the machine away, I'm going to go straight into it because I'm into another day now. I've got the afternoon to myself, and I'm going to use some of that huge pile of leftovers I've got to carry on while I'm in the zone and make some of these hearts. But I'll do that. I'll put them on a separate video. Very happy with how this has turned out overall. I think that's a really striking design. I love it. I'd love a whole quilt made of that, actually. It's been a good way to get used to the method. It's been good practice at sticking to straight lines on the machine. Somehow I still didn't manage to make everything meet up perfectly, but hey ho, never mind. There's no quilt police here. I like that there was the scope to create my own pattern. I'll be really interested to see what patterns other people come up with. I'm delighted that I've got plenty of leftovers to play around and have a bit more of a dive into this technique. And then Sylvia, I promise this is the month that I will finally get round to doing the template that you sent me. I'm going to tiptoe towards it by having a go at this first, which is a bit simpler. Okay, so that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed that. If you're having the Year in Stitches Quilt of the Month box, please do keep sharing pictures of what you've got in your box, how your blocks turned out, and if you've got ideas for what you're going to do with the leftovers as well. Well, that was fun. I'll see you again soon for something else. Bye. Thanks for joining me. Bye.